Hi guys, my name is Sushil and today we are going to discuss about Cisco DNA Center. It's a Cisco digital network architecture management device. Let's get started. So the main agenda that we are going to discuss about Cisco DNA is we'll see overview of SD access and a Cisco DNA Center, key features and benefits, architecture and components, use case and examples, and at last we'll see conclusion. Now, in a market, we have lots of confusions regarding what is SD access or what is DNAC. So let me give you a clarity on it. SD access is actually a solution, automated solution that can be provided via your DNA center. Now, here you can see, let's discuss about the SD access solution divided into or segmented into two parts. So this SD access solution can be provided by DNA Center. So DNA Center is your Cisco device, okay? Now, under the Cisco DNA Center, we have multiple major features, but these are the 5 major features under your Cisco DNAC. We have design, policy, provisioning, automation, and assurance. These are the 5 major pillars under your DNAC. And the DNAC also has its own architecture with 4 layers, and those layers are physical layer, network layer, controller layer, and the management layer. So we'll discuss about all those layers manually, okay? Now let's see the other branch that we have under the SD access solution. We need to understand SD access fabric. We need to understand SD access fabric terminology. Under the terminology of SD access fabric, we have underlay network and we have overlay network. Now the question is, what is underlay network? What is overlay network? So here also you can see I have segmented two topologies here, one with overlay network, other with underlay network. Now let's say in a basic way I have tried explaining here. Underlay network is dedicated to physical devices, okay? And its protocol routing for connectivity purpose. This is basically called as an underlay network. Now what is overlay network? Overlay network, which provides wired and wireless users logical connectivity with all services and policies applied. This is basically called your overlay network. Now, under the overlay network, you have 3 components. You can understand 3 components, like we have fabric data plane, we have fabric control plane, we have fabric policy plane. Now, what happens in a fabric data plane? We use a protocol called as a VXLAN protocol. So here you can see we have a VXLAN technology or VXLAN protocol used in your fabric data plane. Similarly, when it comes to fabric control plane, here we have LIPS protocol. You can see it's a LIPS protocol used in this particular fabric control plane. And when it comes to policy plane, we have like security group tags or the scalable group tags technology used through ICE to implement a policy on our AAA devices, okay? So in brief, we'll discuss all those stuff, okay? So let's see the next slide. Now, here, we have key features and benefits. So what is the key feature and the benefit of your DNAC? So the key features are like we use it for network automation, we use it for assurance and analytics, we use it for policy-based segmentation, we use it for software-defined access, also called as a SD access. We use it for integrating with SD-WAN, intent-based network, and the third-party integration, okay? So Cisco DNAC is actually the original creation of a Maglev company. It was derived from the Maglev company and later it was acquired by Cisco, okay? So it can also integrate with the third-party solutions. It can also help you to integrate with your SD-WAN technology and the third-party solutions. Now we'll understand what is intent-based network. Now see, to simplify our network, we need the different technologies integrated inside one particular device. So here you can see Like we have artificial intelligence. It's a booming technology right now in the market. We have network orchestration. We have machine learning. These all combined together, it gives you an automated administrative task. You can see this. So the work of your DNAC is to provide or to reduce the complexity of your network configuration. We can automate. See that labor work which we had earlier, like manually going and doing a configuration on the each and every location and devices, those things are removed now. We are going with the intent-based networking, okay? We reduce the manual labor part, okay? So these are the key components of your DNAC. It provides you the automated tasks. So goal is to reduce the complexity, like creating, managing, and enforcing the work policies. We do it through the DNAC itself. We don't go manually to each and every location and configure the devices. We basically configure it through DNAC itself. Now, you can also see the other definition, other way understanding the DNAC. Here we have the comprehensive automation. We have the analytics and the assurance, consistent security, right? So these are the major things that we implement, or we basically call it as an intent-based network. We provide all these facilities to our enterprise network, okay? So we can see we provide all these details to our enterprise network, campus area network, and the data centers and the multi-cloud solutions. So DNAC is not only for a single infrastructure. DNAC is a device which is used for multiple types of network. We can implement it for enterprise network. We can implement it for the campus area networks like branch offices. We can also implement it for the data center and the multiple clouds. Now, let's understand SD access management with a DNAC center. As I told you earlier also, we have the 5 major pillars or the 5 major components under the DNAC. Same thing, design, policy, provisioning, automation, and the assurance. Now let's deal with all this part. Now here you can see, in this picture, it shows you like we have a DNAC center. You can say this is our DNAC center, okay? Under this, we have design, policy, provisioning, and assurance, and also provides you the automation to our network, right? Network, what type of network? It can be a network fabric, or you can say of campus fabric networks with the devices like switches, routers, wireless. So basically, we have a wired connection, wireless connection. In all those scenarios, we can automate all these devices using the DNAC. Now, the other major component that we have inside the DNAC that you guys can see is to implement a policy. To implement a policy, we need a device called as an ICE. It's an ICE, Identity Service Engine, okay? So we have the ICE device here to implement a policy to our fabric networks, to our campus area network devices, okay? And also we can use the assurance, which is inbuilt feature inside your DNAC. So basically implementing all the DNAC features, implementing a ICE policy, and doing an assurance. It's like analyzing the network. That is basically called as an assurance. So these are the facilities that we get inside our DNAC. These are the key components. Now, let's discuss about next topic. So here we are going to discuss about SD Access Fabric architecture. In our DNAC, we have 4 layers. So 4 architecture levels we have. So here you can see we have physical layer, network layer, controller layer, and the management layer. These are the 4 major layers of your architecture inside the DNAC. So let's deal with all these 4 features. Okay, we'll understand what are these 4 features and their details. Now, this is the architecture design of your DNAC. Now, in this, you can see we have a 4 layers here. We have physical layer, network layer, controller layer, and the management layer. Now we'll understand what is the use of these layers. At the physical layer, we have physical devices. It can be like Cisco switches or any other vendor switches, wireless devices, routers, or another DNAC appliance itself. So all the physical devices that we deploy in our fabric network is basically called as a physical layer. Now we have a network layer. In a previous slide, we had discussed about the overlay network and the underlay network. So those underlay and the overlay network task basically comes under your network layer. Okay. Now after that we have controller layer. So controller layer is from where we control the devices. So in the controller layer we have NCP, which is called Network Control Protocol, NDP, which is Network Data Platform. Okay. I mean, NCP is Network Control Platform, NDP is Network Data Platform, and ICE is your Identity Service Engine. So these are the key components of your controller layer. Okay. Now we have the management layer. Now what is there in a management layer? We have like base, automation, design, policy, provision, assurance. I told you, right? There are the 5 major pillars of your DNAC. This comes at the management layer. So basically using all these things, we do an management to our network devices. Okay. So, and we get access to all these things through the GUI of your DNAC. This is your user interface of the DNAC. Now, let's see the physical layer. What does a physical layer say? So physical layer is basically dealing with your physical devices. That includes your routers. You can say that includes your router, switches, right? WLC. So these all are the physical devices that we are going to control. So basically there are 2 types of devices. Okay, one is a fabric device, another is non-fabric device. So the devices that can be directly integrated with your DNAC, okay, that is called basically a fabric type of devices. Or we can also deploy a device that is non-fabric device. In technical term, we basically called it as a SD access extension node. The devices that directly does not support the DNAC is basically called as a SD access extension node. Such type of SD access extension nodes can be connected with automation. So 2 methods, either we need to have a device, either we need to purchase a device that will directly support your SD access solution, or else the devices that does not directly get integrated, such type of device called as an SD access extension node can be integrated by using some automations, via automation. So we understood 2 things, fabric and non-fabric devices here. So at the physical layer, we basically connect with the fabric and non-fabric devices. Now, we see these are some examples of the physical switches. Let me tell you some details about the physical switches. See, not all the switches will get integrated with your DNAC. We need to have a specific switches with the specific iOS versions and all that will be supported as a fabric is over here. So you can see we have some model numbers like we have 9200 series, 9300 series, right? These are the model numbers with this respective iOS versions that will support your DNAC directly. So I don't need to put an automation to connect with your DNAC and all. These are the devices that can be directly implemented. So these devices has an additional license. It's not like a traditional switch which will directly support. Your device needs to have the specific type of license. So different types of licenses we have on the switches, on the fabric switches. Fabric switch in the sense the device that will directly connect with your DNAC, that can be integrated with your DNAC. Okay, so you can see we have the licenses like Advantage license for the 24 ports. We have an Advantage license for the 48 ports. So basically we have a Cisco DNA Premier type of license. Depends what type of license you have on a device. So basically you need a switch, and switch should have the license to support your DNAC. Okay, This is required in this fabric switches. Now let's see the other slide. Okay, in this we can see the Cisco switches are extension nodes. So I can use it as an extension node. Okay, so we have the switches like extension node switches as the 3560 CX series, or we have the other switches like 4000 series or the 5000 series with this particular versions. This can be used as an extension rule. Extension rule, I believe you understood the extension rule was actually a device that does not support directly to your DNAC, right? That is basically called as an extension node. So this type of devices also can be integrated with the DNAC by using an automation. So these are as example of an extension nodes. Now we have Cisco routers. So we do have a dedicated Cisco router versions that will support your DNAC directly. So we have ASR routers, ISR routers, and ISRV routers. So these are the dedicated type of router model numbers which has to be implemented as the Cisco fabric devices as a router and the switches. These are extension nodes and these are the Cisco routers that will directly support. So I can call it as a fabric device that supports directly your DNAC is basically called as a fabric device. Now, let's see Cisco Wireless. Now we don't have only a physical devices for the wired connection. We do have the wireless devices as well, right? So for wireless controllers, we do have some model numbers that will directly support your DNAC. So we have 3504, we have 55020 wireless controllers. These are the wireless controllers. I mean, these are the devices that controls your access point. We have the multiple access points in our network, right? Like wherever we go for the wireless connectivity, we need a controller to control the multiple access points. So these are the fabric controllers that will directly support your DNAC. And we have the other model numbers as well. Along with that, we have an Cisco appliances like Cisco DNA Center itself with this particular versions can act as a DNA Center controller, okay? And we do have the ICE series. In ICE, we have an hardware of an ICE that should be with the model number of 3500 series with a minimum version of 2.3 that you want to integrate with your DNAC device. Now, let's see the other slide. So this is your overlay network. Now this thing we have already discussed. So earlier we discussed about the physical layer. Now this is your network layer. In a network layer, I already told you guys about the overlay control plane and the underlay control plane. So these are the two things that comes under the network layer. Now we have the other layer, that is your controller layer. In a controller layer, you can see this is your controller layer. So Cisco DNAC is actually integrating with your ICE device, and through the ICE device, through AAA technology, using Radius, TACAX, or by using IP over LAN protocol, we are going to work with these particular physical devices. These are our campus fabric devices, okay? So basically, what I'm trying to tell, at the controller layer, we have an ICE. ICE plays a major role in a DNAC to implement a policy. So I can implement AAA policies. So I can implement a AAA policy by using Radius protocol. And here on these switches, I can have the PCs, hosts connected. And this host will be connected through an IP over LAN protocol to connect our network. So the devices that I want to push the policy, on the devices which I want to push a policy through the ICE, okay? Such type of controlling method or implementing a policy method is basically called as an controller layer, okay? At the controller layer, you can see we have automation, which is a part of NCP. We have an assurance that is a part of NDC, which we have already discussed in our previous classes. previous slide. Okay. Now let's see the another layer. So these are the three main controller layers, okay, and the subsystems. So basically under the controller layer, we saw NCP and we saw NDP, right? So let me tell you what is exactly the NCP here. So NCP is basically used for the automation, orchestration services to physical layer, and the communicates with the Cisco network devices via verify of forms, including this. Okay, so yes, so here we can see we have netconf and we have the YAN, and these are the SNMP, SSH or the telnet services that we can use it through the NCP. Okay, and along with that we can see we have NDP. Under the NDP we can see it provides the data collection. Basically NDP is used for the assurance purpose. Here we can see it is used for the data analytics purpose. So NCP will be used for automating the task, right? And NDP will be used for the collecting the information, right? Under the under the NCP we can see two major components are there. So the two major components are Cisco DNA design and we have a Cisco DNA provision. These are the two major components under the NCP. Now, okay, so we'll see.
No. Today we were cons. But we were one and to university at. Yeah.
Sorry guys, excuse me.
Yeah.
So there is some issue with this slide. Okay, now here we can see management layer. Now what is management layer? The management layer is basically used for management purpose. So as I told you, getting a DNA GUI, right? Getting the workflow to the users, these are basically the part of your management layer. In a management layer, we basically experience our user interface layer, okay? So basically we get an access to the devices through the GUI, right? To manage the devices under your DNAC for automation, provisioning, whatever we had discussed, the 5 major pillars of your DNAC, all those things can be accessible through the management layer. Okay?
Yeah.
So the conclusion is, here we understand why do we need to have a DNAC. Basically DNAC helps you to reduce the cost and the lower operational complexity. It helps you to simplify troubleshooting with the root cause and analysis, provides a consistent high quality user experience, implement end-to-end security and segmentation, and deploy devices faster. These are the main conclusion points of your DNAC. That's it guys. I'll see you soon in a next video with other videos of a DNAC.